Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a highly requested one from everybody over at Instagram. Last week I posted a poll on my stories asking if you guys wanted to see my makeup collection. I know some people love videos like that and some people hate them, but the results of my poll were overwhelmingly yes. 90-something% of you said that you wanted to see my makeup collection. So I'm gonna break it up for you just because it's kind of large and it probably would take 5 or 6 hours to film all of it. So today I'm going to talk about my eyeshadow palettes and show you like where I store them. And then going forward, I can talk about like my blushes or foundations and concealers and things like that in separate videos. So anyway, before I get started though, I just want to put a little disclaimer out there because I have shown my collection in the past on Instagram stories, and there are always some people who feel like maybe the collection I have is a bit excessive for one person, and they say, you know, how could you possibly use all of that? And I can't. There's no way I will ever use it, but keep in mind that this is my job, this is a business, so my entire collection is for this job, for Instagram, YouTube, my blog, and these palettes that I have been collected over years. I started in 2009, and when I first started, I would always, you know, maybe I'd post a review of an eyeshadow palette, and then I would get a bunch of questions from people saying, how does this compare to this palette? And I would say, I don't know, because I don't have that palette. So I sort of made it my mission to build up my collection as much as I could so that I can be as helpful as possible to all of you and do comparison swatches, which I do very often on Instagram. And I always get tons of questions. How do you think this palette, you know, compares to Modern Renaissance? Or how does this palette compare to Naked Heat? And there's been times when I did give away palettes and then I kind of regretted it because then inevitably other brands would make dupes and then I couldn't compare the two. So this is why I have so much, and I also, some of them are actually very old and I probably wouldn't use them on my eyes anymore. Like some of the Naked palettes that I have, I bought when they first came out. So some of these palettes are like going on 5 or 6 or 7 years old, and I probably would not use them at this point, but I keep them just for comparison swatching purposes because I could still use them on my arm. So please keep that in mind when watching this video, that this is not a personal collection, this is for a business. So anyway, let's get started. I can't wait to show you everything, and I'm going to just go through a little bit, and I'm not going to talk too much about each palette because again, that would make the video super long, but I will just maybe say like which ones my favorites are and things like that. So anyway, let's get started. Okay guys, so this is my beauty room setup. Sorry, it looks a little bit cluttery right now, but the white furniture is from IKEA. It's the Alex collection, which a lot of people have, and I keep my eyeshadow palettes in the 2 top drawers of this desk in the middle, as well as in these plastic bins below. I got those bins at Target, and they are 3-drawer bins, so I have 2 stacked on top of each other all the way across. So that gives me a total of 18 drawers to hold palettes, and actually my eyeshadow palettes are only in the first 2 sections. The third one has blush palettes and contour palettes and things like that, highlight palettes. So really I'm just going to be showing you the 2 top desk drawers and then the first 2 sections of bins underneath. Okay, so inside the first drawer, I have everything grouped by brand. So on this side, I have my LORAC palettes, Juvias Place, Huda Beauty, Anastasia Beverly Hills, Too Faced, NARS. Let me just open this a little bit more. Okay, and yeah, this is all LORAC over here, and Zoeva. Starting with LORAC. Their original unzipped palette, which is one of my absolute favorites. I love the rosier tones in here. I wear this one all the time. And just in general, I think LORAC's formula is one of the best that's out there anywhere. This is unzipped gold. So it's just like a more golden toned version of it. I don't wear this one quite as much. I think if you're between the two, the original unzipped is my favorite. And then the Desert Sunset palette. This is a relatively new palette that came out back in 2017, and I love this one. It's really warm and beautiful. And I also have, although it's not right next to it, another unzipped. Here we go. The Ocean Sunset unzipped. And that's that one. And then I have all the Pro palettes. So you've got the original Pro. This is another favorite of mine. I feel like this is a staple that anybody should have in their collection. It has pretty much every neutral shade that you could ever need, and it's organized. All the Pro palettes are actually where the entire top row is mattes and then the bottom row is shimmers. So you're really getting everything that you would ever need to create a look in this palette. So the original is a little bit more warmer toned to neutral, and then the second Pro palette is way more cool tones. So if you're looking for a really nice cool tone palette, this is a good option too, because the formula is incredible. All the LORAC Pro palettes are just fantastic. So there's that one. Pro 3 wasn't my favorite. I think a lot of people didn't like this one, but I don't know. Looking at it now, I might go back and just revisit this one a little bit because I didn't use it much, but I think, I don't know, there's just some really beautiful basic shades in here, so I might give this one another go. This is the little mini LORAC Pro Matte palette. This is basically just a little version of the original. It does have different shades in it though, so it's definitely not a repeat. And then here's the LORAC Pro Metal. This is just all shimmery shades. And then this is the Pro To Go, and it's actually more of a chunky palette because it has two sides to it. You have your eyeshadows on one side here, and then blush and bronzer on the other. So this is it's a cute little travel palette, but just keep in mind that it's chunky. It actually has a brush too. And then Mega Pro 3. This is the only Mega Pro I have from LORAC. I never got the other two. But again, just a huge selection of shades in here to play with. And then these palettes I was absolutely in love with. These are the little LA palettes that she came out with. This is the Venice Beach one. It's just so gorgeous. They have 4 eyeshadows and then 2 face colors on the side, but you can also use those as eyeshadows too. So I just love these palettes. I think they're so fun. The Santa Monica one was probably my favorite. This one is so pretty, and I love the blush color in here, this peachy blush. Oh my gosh, so gorgeous. And then Malibu, I loved this one as well. They're just super cute palettes. I think they're still available at Ulta, a few of them. I don't think the whole collection is there, but some of them are still. And then I have the LORAC Pirates of the Caribbean palette. They did a couple of movie palettes. This one, again, not really my favorite. I mean, the formula is awesome, but not my favorite in terms of color selection, I guess. Let's see. This was a limited edition palette that they had. Again, it's like a face palette, a travel palette, and it had 6 eyeshadows and a highlight and blushes. I forget what this was called. Refined Romance. So this actually isn't around anymore. And then we have the LA Dreaming palette. I love this one as well. It came out last spring and it just has some beautiful cool tones in it. I'm not sure if you can still get this on their website. I know it's not at Ulta anymore, but I will check their website, and if you can still get it, I'll link it down below. It's just a really gorgeous palette. And then this one is the Getaway, and this was, I think it was a Nordstrom exclusive actually. This is another face palette of theirs. I'm pretty sure this is discontinued as well. So I'm not gonna really show these too much, but I still have them because I hang on to everything. And then this is their Beauty and the Beast palette, which I actually liked a bit more than the Pirates one. This one just, the shades were a little bit more my speed, and as you can see, I hardly use this thing, but it's just so big and bulky, and I just don't think to take it out much. So that's that one. Okay, so that's LORAC. And then I have, let's go to Juvia's place. Oh, this actually shouldn't be in here. This is their blush palette, volume 2. I'm going to put that with my blush palettes. That's in the wrong spot. Then I have the Nubian palette, which is my favorite from them just because all of the shades are super wearable and neutral, and that's kind of what I gravitate toward most of the time. The formula on all the Juvia's Place palettes are awesome. If you haven't tried them, they're definitely worth picking up at least one to try for now. They're also very well priced, I think, for the quality. And then this is the Saharan 2. This is another gorgeous palette. It has some really beautiful pops of color in there. I don't reach for it that often, but when I do, you can really make some amazing looks out of this one. And then this one is their more recent one. It's just got really pretty softer colors, but you've got that pop of hot pink in the middle and this really pretty green over here. Just another really beautiful palette from them. So those are my 3 Juvia's Place that I have so far. And then Zoeva is another brand. I feel like nobody talks about them, but they are so underrated because their formula is really good and their palettes are about $26.50, which is not bad. The only thing is you have to order these from Germany and the shipping I think is $9, so it definitely ups the price of the palette, brings it into the mid-30s, but it's still definitely worth it in my opinion. This is the Blanc Fusion. This is just a really beautiful neutral palette. Cocoa Blend is probably the most famous of theirs. Everybody talks about this one. And it is a really gorgeous, warmer toned neutral palette with these beautiful cranberry shades in here. And then this is their Cafe palette, which is a little bit newer. I swatched this on my Instagram not too long ago, and I just really love the color selection in here. It's just something different. And then Caramel Melange is a really warm toned palette. I love like these shades over here. This coppery one is so beautiful. And then I have my Huda Beauty palettes. This one is, these are their little Obsessions, and this one's Mauve Obsessions. Oh, get it open. Go. Really beautiful. These little palettes are amazing. I think they're even better than the larger ones in terms of formula. This is the warm one. And then Smoky, which is another favorite of mine. I absolutely love this one. So I also have Desert Dusk. I never got Rose Gold, but I kind of want it now just to sort of round out my Huda collection. But this is another just stunning palette. Overall, I do like the formula. Some people aren't crazy about it. It's a little bit more dense, but especially the matte shades, but they don't kick up a lot. Then I have 2 NARS palettes. I have the Wanted palette, which I just showed in my January favorites. This is another favorite palette of mine. I wear this one a lot. It just has really pretty rosy tones in here and a couple of, you know, colors. You got your burgundy cranberry shades and a really pretty green. And then this is the Loaded palette from them, which came out last year. And this one is way more just neutral, basic, everyday, but the formula on these is really amazing. So if you haven't tried NARS eyeshadows yet, you might want to check this one out as well. And then this is some of my Too Faced collection. It's not all of it because I have some more underneath. These are just the palettes from them that I use more often. Chocolate Gold, this is brand new. I just got this last week and I'm already obsessed with it. You probably, if you follow me on Instagram, saw my swatches of this. It's insane. It's their best palette that they've come out with in maybe forever. And I highly recommend, if you haven't been loving Too Faced lately, try this one. It is above and beyond anything that they've ever done in terms of formula. And it is very shimmery for the most part, but you do have your basic mattes in here on this side that really can help you to create a really neutral base look, and then you can just go in with one of these pops of color. It's just gorgeous. Definitely check out my Instagram if you haven't seen the swatches yet, because they're incredible. And then Just Peachy Mattes is another favorite of mine. Really beautiful shades, and the formula is great on this one as well. It's all matte, which I like. I tend to do a lot of matte eye looks, so there's that one. And then the Original Peach palette is another one that I reach for semi-often, so I kept it up here as well. And then my Anastasia palettes. This is the Master Palette by Mario, now discontinued, but such a beautiful palette. This was my favorite for so long. I used this one for weeks on end when I first got it because it's just so easy to work with. The formula is amazing. I'm not going to go on about it too much because it's not available anymore. I also have the Prism palette, which I've started keeping all my newer palettes in the box. I don't know if that's such a good idea, but I'm just trying to keep them nice looking. So here's Prism. Really bright, bold shades in here and really shimmery as well. Again, the formula is awesome. It is on all of their palettes, honestly. Even Subculture, I didn't mind all that much. A lot of people thought it was too powdery, and it is, but I just sort of use it as sparingly as I possibly can to avoid making a mess. But here is Subculture. Modern Renaissance, of course, the staple in anyone's collection. I got this almost 2 years ago now, and I still love it just as much as when I got it. I have yet to hit pan on anything yet, though, because, again, with Anastasia's formula, you barely have to tap each shade to get color payoff, so I think they're really long-lasting. And then I also made my own palette from them one year when their eyeshadow singles were on sale. So I picked up 8 of their singles and just sort of made myself a really neutral palette. This was before I had any of their other palettes. I think at the time I only had Modern Renaissance, so I wanted to try some more of their colors out. So this is the palette that I made. Oh, and under here, surprise, an IT Cosmetics palette. This is their It Girl palette, which came out around the holidays this year. Another one that I absolutely love. I'm not sure if it's still available. If it is, I will link it below. But I just love the colors in here. You have your more brown neutrals over here, rosy tones over here, and this gorgeous blush in the middle. So just a really fun face palette. So, okay, that's that drawer. And then in the second desk drawer, I have my Tarte palettes, ColourPop on this side, and then there's a few in the middle that I just maybe have 1 or 2 palettes from each brand, and they're, again, palettes that I wear pretty often. I think I have the Balm underneath here as well, so we'll just go through, starting with Tarte. I have the Tartelette Toasted palette, which is the warmest of the Tartelette collection. And then I also have the Original Tartelette, which if you're looking for a more cool tone palette, again, this is a great option. Just really beautiful, cooler toned neutrals. And then Tartelette in Bloom. This is probably one of my favorite palettes of all time. I love this one so much. It has warm and cool in it, and just a beautiful formula. It's like the perfect neutral palette. So I love that one. I have their little Tartist Pro to Go. I like this one as well. It's really cute. The formula is fantastic in here, and it's just a really cute little travel palette. I actually have a lot of little travel type palettes from them. This one is the Buried Treasure. Love the design on this one. I think it's so pretty, and the formula feels sort of more creamy, like the Rainforest Under the Sea, or the Rainforest Under the Sea. I think I was thinking of Enchantment Under the Sea, like from Back to the Future. The Rainforest of the Sea palette. So this is like a more, squishy, like creamy texture. And speaking of Rainforest of the Sea, I have which one is this? This is volume 2. So this one had a little bit cooler toned browns in here, and then you have your sort of navy blue on that side. The original is probably my favorite. That's this one here. Just a really gorgeous selection of colors. And I love these like when you're in a hurry, because the really creamy formula you can just apply with your fingers, just swipe it on your lids and you're good to go. And then the third one, I love the shades in here. I think it's beautiful. It's just a very metallic palette. So I don't reach for this one that often, but you know, you just have your one matte shade here, and then all the rest are really super shimmery and shiny. I wore this a lot over the summer, just you know, going out at night. I would put like one of the shimmery shades on my lid, but as a rule, everyday life, I don't really wear this one all that much. And then this one is the Ladies Night palette. I got this in a QVC set. This is a full face palette, so you have your eyeshadows, blush, highlight, and bronzer. This one, the formula wasn't the best on. It's okay. It's not a bad palette, but it certainly doesn't match up to some of their regular ones. I think this is one of their palettes that was made in China, and I definitely notice a difference between the palettes that they have that are made in China versus the ones that are made in the US. So there's that one. This one is Goddess Glam. I don't remember where I got this one from. I don't know if this was one from Ulta or if it was from another set. I'm not sure, but it's just another little face palette. I also have the original Maneater. So love this palette. I actually ended up buying the second one. It's on top of my desk right now, and it's the exact same palette, except they made this shade smaller and put in a black. So it's pretty much the exact same thing, and I was really disappointed when I got it, and I realized that I do love this palette, and I think if you don't have the Maneater 2 would be a good one to get. But if you have this one, don't get the Maneater 2. It's literally the same thing, and you could always pull a black from another palette that you have, so I wouldn't waste your money on that one. This is the Dream Big palette. This came out, I believe, last spring. Or maybe in the summertime. I can't remember now. I don't think I've used this ever other than just when I swatched it. It's pretty, it's okay, but nothing too special about it, I guess. I don't know. Make Magic Happen. This one came out around the same time as that last one did. This is, again, more of that creamy formula that works best if you apply with your fingers. So that's that one. Oh, okay. So I stuck some face palettes in here as well. These need to go down below in the face palette drawer, but this is the Hamptons Weekender. This is brand new, and it has blush, highlight, and bronzer. And then the Pro Glow To Go is one of my favorite highlighting palettes. It's just perfect for my skin tone. I didn't get the large Pro Glow palette because there were a lot of shades in there that were too dark for me, that, you know, highlighters and bronzers that I felt like wouldn't work. But this little one is perfect if you have fair skin. I would definitely check this one out. You've got a really shimmery highlight, then one that's a little bit more of like a low glow, and then the bronzer is like a really pretty perfect shade. So it's a really good travel one. Then I have the Tartelette Tease. You can see that right on the front, so I'm not going to open it up. But this is just the smaller version of the Tartelette palette. I also have the Tartelette Flirt, which is a warmer version. Another cute little travel palette. I love my travel palettes. Okay, Clay Play. I have both. There was definitely some controversy when it came to these because the original I noticed went on clearance. So that's actually when I bought it. And then the new one came out and it looked suspiciously like the old one. They look identical. On the outside, they're identical on the inside. They have the same exact shade names and everything. But what they did is, here, I'll show you the first one. The original is an all matte palette. It has all matte eyeshadows, and then bronzer and contour down on the bottom. But the new one, they kept all the matte eyeshadows exactly the same. And what they did was they just added 3 shimmer shades here, and they swapped out a blush for one of the bronzers and added a highlight. So now you have bronzer, blush, and highlight versus 3 bronzer or contour shades. So there are a lot of shades in here that are exactly the same. This bronzer is exactly the same, and all the matte shades of the eyeshadow are exactly the same. So you know, it really depends on your preference. I personally like what they did with the second one. I kind of wish they had done this originally because it's nice to have the blush in there. And it's nice to have some shimmer shades as well. But I kind of regret buying the first one because now I have a lot of duplicate shades, unfortunately. And then I have the Styled by Hourglass palette. This came out, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I think now. It was just a limited edition face travel palette. And last but not least from Tarte is the Tarte Pro. I have to say I don't really use this one all that often, hence why it's in the back. But you know, for Tarte, there are definitely some brighter, bolder shades in here. And I know people always are wanting them to sort of take more risks with color. So I am definitely more boring when it comes to makeup choices. But, you know, so this one, I just don't find myself dipping into all that often. And then from Mally Beauty, I have her Muted Muse palettes. Again, super, super underrated formula here. The original Muted Muse has such a nice selection of colors, and I love what she did here with these 2 larger shades, because so you've got your highlight shade, which is not too shimmery, it just has more of like a satiny finish, and then your bronzer, so you can actually use these on your face as well, or you can use them on your eyes like as your crease color, and then your highlight under your brow bone. And then she's got some purpley tones on this side, and then your more neutral brown and orange right here. So it's just a really versatile palette. You can do a lot with it, and the formula is really, really good. Nobody ever talks about Mally's eyeshadows, but I really enjoy this palette. So of course, when she came out with the Muted Muse Velvet, which is the follow-up, I had to get that one as well. It has the same sort of setup, but this is more cool toned. Well, it's got some like muted olive greens in here, a little peachy shade. It's just really beautiful. This one's actually a deep purple. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's sort of like a grayish purple. So it's really beautiful as well. And she just came out with a new one, actually, a rose gold version. So I'm guessing I'm probably going to have to get that one too. And then from Laura Geller, this is the only Laura Geller palette that I have up on top here. This is the Iconic New York collection, and this is another really rosy tone palette that I love, and I think the formula is really good on it. I got this at Ulta, I believe, and there was another bolder version, but I like this one a lot more. I have the It Cosmetics Naturally Pretty palette. This is a fantastic all matte palette, one of my favorites for sure. I haven't had this too long, but I just love the formula on this is also just super blendable, and it's just beautiful to work with. I wasn't a fan of It Cosmetics like little trio eyeshadows that they used to have, but this formula is incredible. If you haven't tried this, definitely pick it up. I think I got this 50% off at one point when Ulta was having a sale on it. And they do have a second one as well, but I don't have that one yet. From bareMinerals. Another brand that nobody ever talks about these eyeshadows, but they are such a nice blendable formula that's easy to work with. And I love bareMinerals eyeshadows, but I guess, I don't know, maybe they're just not exciting like some of the other brands are. This palette is actually a face palette. I really like their face palettes a lot. You get a good selection of colors in here. This one is Be Beautiful. Okay, and then this one, which palette is this? It It doesn't say anywhere on here, so I'm going to look it up and I will put it across the screen. But this is one of their Ready eyeshadow palettes. I'm not sure which one this is, but like I said, I'll put it across the screen if I can find it. Just really pretty, easy to wear, neutral colors. The Bare Sensuals is probably one of my favorites from them. Again, those rosy tones, the purple tones. I guess because I have more like pink in my skin, I love colors like this, and they just seem to complement pretty well. So this is another beautiful one. I'm not sure if it's still available at Ulta, but I will link it below if it is. The next up is the Colored Rain Queen of Hearts palette. Colored Rain is more of an indie brand, and I saw this on Instagram, fell in love with it, had to have it. It's a beautiful palette. Again, more of like your warm tones, but the formula is amazing on here, and these metallic shades are just really gorgeous lid colors. So I got this during a Black Friday sale, I believe. And then this is actually the only Clinique palette that I own, but I got this last year as well. This is the All About Shadow palette. And this is another more cool toned palette with, you know, your sort of berry colors in here. You have a navy, gray, and taupe. And then from the Balm, I have the Meat Matte Nude and Meat Matte Tremoni palettes. I never ended up getting the subsequent ones, but I definitely want to add those at some point because I think this formula is really good as well. This is another awesome cool tone. This is one of my favorite cool tone palettes, actually. I love the large pans that they give you, and their mattes are just really, really good. So if you haven't tried the Balm's eyeshadows yet, or if you have but you don't have this one, it's a great cool tone option. Meat Matrimony is a little bit more warm toned, but you still have a few cools in here as well. Another really good option if you like matte eyeshadows. And then continuing with the Balm, I have their nude palettes. Nude Beach is their newest one, and this one is very warm tones again, so everybody following that trend last year for sure. And then Nude Tude is more of just neutral colors. Some cooler tones in here for sure. You've got purples, pinks, taupes, and browns. And then Nude Dude is the second one that they came out with. Nude Tude was the first. And it's kind of more of the same. A lot of very similar shades, but not exactly. Some, you know, more purples. You have a few more shimmery, sort of warmer tones in here. Formula is nice on these. It's not crazy good. I think I like their all matte palettes a little bit better than these, but it's a pretty good formula. It's not bad. The Persona Identity palette is another one of my absolute favorites that I tried in 2017. Formula is fantastic. I use this palette so often, and the shades in here are really beautiful as well. You have, again, a lot of cool tones and some warm tones. It's actually a really nice mix. The mattes are incredible to work with. The shimmers are great too. I can't wait to see what this brand comes up with going forward. And then from Pure Cosmetics, their Soiree Diaries is another favorite. This is a very neutral palette. Pure is another brand that I feel like nobody talks about their formula, but it is so good. They have 2 rows of mattes up here and then a row of metallic shades, and all staying very neutral. So this is another really beautiful one. And then moving on to ColourPop. I have amassed quite a collection of ColourPop over the past year. This is their Take Me Home travel palette. I'm just going to go through these really quickly because I have so many of them. This is a cute little warm toned palette. You Had Me at Hello. This is probably one of my more favorites. Again, it has those rosier tones in here. Just a really beautiful color selection in here. Element of Surprise. This one has a few bolder pops, but also stays very neutral for the most part. Dream Street. This one is the Kathleen Lights collaboration. Really pretty shades in here as well. Femme Rosa. I think this one is discontinued actually. But this was another really pretty sort of rosy one. All I See is Magic. This came out around the holidays. This is one of my favorites from them. I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful palette. I love all these colors. I've worn all these colors. I think it's fantastic. I hope they don't discontinue this one. I don't know if maybe they already have. I haven't checked their website in a while, but I know this was a holiday release, so I'm not sure that it's going to stick around as part of their permanent collection. But and then Golden State of Mind. This one is one that came out at Sephora over the holidays. This one is extremely shimmery. I don't reach for this one that much as well. I think every shade in here is shimmer, actually. Yes. So I tend to not use palettes that are all shimmer all that much, just because I need the matte shades and it's just too much of a pain to go into another palette to get ready in the morning when I'm in a hurry. So I don't reach for that one much. Double Entendre. This one is probably the closest dupe for the Tartelette Toasted palette that I've seen in a while. I did comparison swatches on my Instagram a while ago, and they're extremely similar, but this one is a lot less money. And like all ColourPop's palettes, the formula is so good that it's kind of hard to believe that these palettes are under $20. All of them are around $16. This one is Yes Please. This one kind of reminds me of the Natasha Denona Sunset palette in a lot of ways, but again, for a fraction of the price. Give It To Me Straight. This is their brand new one, and again, me with the rosy tones. I love this palette. This is probably going to be one of my favorites. I haven't played with it too much yet since it's brand new, but another really good one. I Think I Love You is kind of similar to the Double Entendre palette. It has those really warm browns, but this one also has a black, and it has this pop of yellow, and it has some copper. You know, it's slightly different, but kind of similar vibes, I would say. Then the My Little Pony palette. I wasn't sure that I was going to like this one, so I didn't get it right away, but I have to say the colors in here are so pretty, and it is going to be a really pretty palette. I think it's going to be a really fun palette to use in the springtime. I also saw this one from the Balm all the way in the back. This is the Balm Appetit palette. Really cute packaging, adorable, but I wasn't a huge fan of this palette. I didn't give it the best review when I first tried it. I may go in and try it again, but I honestly haven't touched this palette in a while. The color selection is pretty. I mean, I do like these purples in here. I like these navy sort of slate gray and navy blue down here. So I might play with this again and just see if maybe my feelings have changed about it. All right, guys, so that is the second desk drawer, and now we're going to go below into those plastic drawers. Okay, so top drawer down below in these plastic units, I have some of these Academy of Color palettes from Kohl's. They came out with a bunch of different versions. This is the mulberry one, and these are actually pretty nice. A lot of them are good quality. This is the peach one, and it's actually peach scented. I mean, for $10, I think these palettes are pretty good. So this metallic one was actually not my favorite. No, it wasn't this one. I actually liked this one. I think the one that wasn't my favorite was this one, the holographic. It just, the color selection wasn't good, and the formula wasn't as good on this one as the others. This is the original one that actually reminded me a lot of the Kylie bronze palette. So overall, definitely not bad palettes for 10 bucks. This is the Hourglass Infinity Eyeshadow palette. For me, this wasn't the best for the price especially. I mean, it was all right, but I used it a couple of times and haven't touched it in a couple of years now. I don't know why I still kept it, but then the Neapolitan ice cream palette from Beauty Bakery is actually a really pretty palette. That's what that looks like inside. The formula is really good on this one as well. I think I swatched this on my Instagram a while ago, but if you want to see this again or any of these palettes, just let me know in the comments below, because I can definitely either swatch them on my Instagram or maybe do a video, like a shop my stash or something. So let me know if that's something you guys are interested in. This is the Becca Ski palette from this holiday season. It looks really pretty, but these shades were not too impressive to me. They just are very, very sheer on the eyes, which was kind of disappointing because Becca's highlighters are so creamy and pigmented, but this just really lacked pigment. It wasn't my favorite palette by far. I have some Sephora collection palettes. This is the Vintage Filter one, and this is really pretty cool tones. I don't know if they still have this one, but I'll definitely check on the website and link it below if they do. Formula isn't outstanding, but it's good. And if you like these colors, I think it's definitely workable. The Sephora Pro palette, this is the warm one. This is, I think, a really good quality palette. It's better than anything else I've tried from Sephora collection. If you love warm tones, it is definitely more on the expensive side for Sephora collection, but the formula is very high-end comparable, so definitely worth it. And then this is the Sephora collection House of Lashes collab, and this is the Secret Garden one. I still have the plastic on it, actually. Hold on. There we go. Really, really beautiful palette, really pretty colors in here. I think this would be great for spring. I think these already went on sale, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll have to double check that. I think the formula is pretty good on this one as well. It's not outstanding, but you can definitely work with it. Okay, and then in the next drawer down, we have some more Too Faced. This one is the Natural Love palette. Really super pretty palette. I don't know why I don't use this one that much, but I think I'm definitely gonna start using it again in the springtime because it just has some really pretty pastels. And then next is the I Want Candy palette, and this was actually a pretty good release from them. I had kind of been disenchanted with Too Faced's formula, the last few palettes they had made other than Chocolate Gold, but this one actually was really good. I thought it was definitely better than some of the other ones that they've come out with as of late. I also have this Christmas in New York palette from them. This was from not this past holiday season, but 2016. It was pretty, but it wasn't the greatest formula from them. A lot of times holiday palettes just aren't. And then I have some Violet Voss palettes. I have their Holy Grail palette. Again, a very warm-toned, neutral palette. And then the Taupe Notch palette, which has pretty much all brown shades in here, but I love these two. I think the formula is really good on these as well. I also got the Kylie Royal Peach palette. This is the only Kylie palette I own, and I probably won't be buying any more. They actually come from the same factory as ColourPop, and I don't think these shadows are any better than ColourPop. In fact, ColourPop's maybe a little bit better, and these are way more expensive, so that was the only Kylie palette I am going to own. And then from Pure Cosmetics, I have a couple of these little travel palettes. They were really cute. I don't know if they still have these now. They came out over the summer, but they have your blushes, highlighter, bronzer, and then eyeshadows on that side. And what I liked about these is that the mirror pops up like this, so you could actually do your makeup with it. You could tilt it the way that you want and set this on a desk and do your makeup on the go. So I thought that was really cute. They had this one, which was more neutral, and then they had this one that had smokier shades in it. I'm not going to take it out, but Those are the colors. And then I have the Pure My Little Pony palette, a really, really fun palette with lots of pops of color. And like I said before with the Soiree Diaries, I think that Pure Cosmetics formula is really underrated, and I think their palettes are pretty affordable for what you're getting. This one is the Trolls palette. This one's a little bit more neutral, but still has a few pops of color in there. And then this drawer I think is just random palettes that I only have like the one palette from each brand. This is the Melissa Michelle palette from Ulta. I thought that this was a really good palette. I don't have any other Ulta brand eyeshadows, so I wasn't sure what to expect, but I actually thought the formula on this one was really good, and it's a full face palette as well with the lipstick and blush and highlighter, so I was pleasantly surprised by that one. And then this is the Masterpiece palette from Glamlight, and this is gorgeous. I just got this one more recently. I thought that the formula was awesome. This is their first makeup product that they've come out with. Glamlight is known for making those little lights that clip onto your cell phone, like to take a selfie. So they just decided to start a makeup line, and this was their first palette. This is the Sleek Goodnight Sweetheart palette. I got this one a few years ago. I actually ordered it from Sleek overseas, but now these are actually available at Ulta and Walgreens, so that's what that one looks like. I'll have to go back and try this one out. I haven't tried it in a while now. It's got pretty colors, and it's actually pretty cool toned as well. And then this is the Ciate London Chloe Morello collab. This is the Pretty Fun and Fearless palette. I really like this one as well. I think the formula is pretty good. It's not the greatest, but I did think it was decent, especially for the price, because you got this palette and it came in this bag along with a lipstick and a mascara. So at the time it was a good deal. I think then they started just selling the palette separately, so I'm not sure if they still do, but I'm gonna check on that for you guys. I also have a Laura Geller palette. This is Passport to Pretty. I think this was a limited edition, so it's probably not around anymore, but it had some of her baked eyeshadows and then her French Vanilla highlighter, which is one of my favorite highlighters ever, the Golden Rose highlighter, and then her Malibu baked blush. And then also from Mally Beauty, this is her Ageless Eyes eyeshadow palette. And sadly, I don't think this one is around anymore, but I got this from QVC originally, and I just love the color selection. I think it came out last spring. It's just beautiful. I have this little tiny Smashbox matte palette. It's so cute. It's just a cute little travel palette, fits in the palm of your hand. The formula is really, really nice on it. I was pleasantly surprised by this one. This is called Shape Matters. And then from the Body Shop, this is their Down to Earth palette, and I actually really enjoyed this one. I hadn't tried any of their eyeshadows in the past. I love, love, love the cool tones in here, and the formula is really good too. I mean, it's very, very pigmented. So, and I think this is actually still available if you want to check it out. And then this is the Sephora Mixology palette, and when I first saw this, thought it was such a cute idea because you can take each little grouping here and make one complete look out of it. It's sort of like they did all the work for you as far as pairing the colors. The formula wasn't the greatest though, as I've found with most Sephora collection palettes. It's just okay. It's not like it's unworkable, but for a few bucks more, I would just get maybe a high-end palette from a different brand. Dose of Colors, Marvelous Mauves. I definitely want to try more palettes from Dose of Colors because I really was impressed with this one. This is just like your purpley mauve shades, but they have other ones. They have a rust one and browns, and I definitely want to go and pick up some more of those because the formula is really great with this one as well. And then this is the bareMinerals Bare Metals palette. I think this one is still available. I got this at QVC, if I'm not mistaken. And like all the other bareMinerals palettes, just really easy to blend and work with, but it has a whole row here of pretty metallic shades and then a whole row of mattes, so it's a really nice one. And then this whole drawer is BH Cosmetics, and I have their Illuminate by Ashley palette, which I actually still have the plastic on. I only swatched this once. It's a really nice soft formula, but it's very powdery. Then next up is their Solar Flare Baked palette, and if you haven't tried their baked eyeshadows, you have to try them. They are so good. You can use them wet or dry. They're very intense and amazing for the price. Another favorite of mine from BH Cosmetics is the Zodiac palette. This actually just launched at Ulta as well. This palette is just absolutely stunning. The formula is fantastic. It has a big circle of baked shimmer eyeshadows around the edge, then a circle of matte shades in the center with a shimmery baked highlight, and one of the best formulas I've ever tried from them. In some of their earlier palettes, I felt like the baked shimmery eyeshadows were really good, but their mattes were always lacking for me. They were a little bit more powdery, but this one, these mattes are just like high-end quality. They're so good, super pigmented, not as powdery at all. So this is an awesome palette. Another one that I like from them is their Marble palettes. This one is in Warm Stone. And I just thought this was a really pretty warm tone palette. The formula was pretty good on this one as well. I have their original Carly Bible palette. I never did get the new one because I just felt like I had this one, and the new one only had a few additional shades, so I just decided to stick with what I already have. The Shan XO palette, this is also the original one that has the shadows on the one side and then the lipsticks on the other. I think the new one is all eyeshadows if I'm not mistaken, but I didn't get the new one as well. I still have this one. The Wild and Alluring palette, this is another baked one, and these are actually like marbleized shadows, really pretty, and it has a blush and a highlight as well. This is a really fun summer palette. This is the Wild Child palette. This is another baked eyeshadow formula from them from a while ago. Some of these I don't know if they're still available. I've had some of these for a few years now. If they are, I will link them below for sure, but they may not be. The Supernova palette is another full baked palette. As you can tell, I really like their baked eyeshadows. This is the Bee by Bubs Beauty. I got this one at Ulta a while back. I actually haven't used this one too much, but I kind of forgot about it. So I'm going to definitely pull this one out and start using it more because I think it's really pretty. This is the Gold Rush Eye and Cheek palette. I believe this was a holiday palette from 2016. It's pretty. I didn't really use it all that much. I didn't think that the quality was as great with this one as some of their other palettes have been in the past. Their blush neutrals, I really like this one a lot. It has tons of rosy toned eyeshadows and then blushes at the bottom, and I thought the formula was pretty good on this one, but this is one of their older palettes, so the mattes can be a little bit powdery, and I think you need to use a primer with this one. The Modern Neutrals, actually this was an all matte palette, and this is when they kind of started to step it up a little bit with the mattes. I thought that these mattes were actually pretty good for the most part, especially the deeper colors. The lighter ones still were a little bit powdery, but overall I thought this was a pretty good one as well. It's nice because you have a ton of mattes and it was a really affordable price. And then this was their Pride and Prejudice Zombies palette. Again, I don't know if this one is still available, but it was a face palette, and I thought the quality was pretty good. Not outstanding, but not bad. So I think if you're going to buy anything from BH Cosmetics, definitely check out their baked products, and also the new Zodiac palette is fantastic. Okay, then in this drawer we have, this palette is actually from an indie brand called Glowed Up. This is their Into the Sun palette, and this one is again a lot like the ColourPop Yes Please, except that it has a bronzer, highlighter, and blush, so it's an all over face palette, and I really enjoyed the formula. I thought it was really good, And this being their first palette, I think they did an amazing job. I can't wait to see what else they come up with. And also a portion of the proceeds of all of their palettes go to helping animals and shelters. So I thought that was really nice as well. And then I have the Pretty Naked palette from 100% Pure. These are all natural eyeshadows, and this is just a cute little face palette. It has blushes and eyeshadows. It's not my favorite palette in the world. It's not bad. I mean, I like that it's all natural, but the formula is just okay for me. I also have a bunch of Urban Decay to share with you. The Naked 3 palette, which is definitely more of your rosy tones. Original Naked is probably my favorite of all of them. And then the Naked 2 is more cool toned. I also have the Gwen Stefani collab. I love this palette. I haven't used this one in so long. I completely forgot that I even had it. So this is another one to pull out and start using again. The Naked on the Run palette. I highly doubt this is even around anymore, but this was a full face palette. It had a lipstick, eyeliner, mascara. This is definitely no good anymore. And your eyeshadows, blush, bronzer, and highlight. So this was sort of like a travel palette. Then I have the Ultimate Naked Basics, Naked Ultimate Basics, and that's just an all matte palette from them. And then the last one I have is the Vice palette, and this one actually I remember so clearly. My husband bought this one for me at Sephora back when I was first starting out with Instagram, and I wanted some more high-end palettes to compare things to, and couldn't really afford to buy them because I wasn't making any money yet with my blog. And he was like, oh, I'll buy it for you. You have to start somewhere and build up your collection. So he's always been so supportive of me doing this, and I don't know, I just thought that was really sweet. So anyway, this one has some bright, bold, and beautiful colors. I don't know if they make this one anymore either, but I'm keeping it. And then the last drawer is all of my Shop Hush palettes, and these are from Bad Habit Beauty, Beauty Creations, and Face Candy. So first up, I have the Retro Love palette, which is an exact dupe for the Anastasia Subculture. And then the Aura palette is an exact dupe for Anastasia's Prism palette. I actually haven't even swatched this one yet, but I plan to do a comparison. This is the Bad Habit Artistry palette, and this is a dupe for the Makeup by Mario palette. And then the Inferno palette is an exact dupe for the Naked Heat. The Royals is an exact dupe for the Modern Renaissance palette. These are all identical dupes, and the formula is so, so good on all of them. Aphrodite is an exact dupe for the Huda Beauty Rose Gold palette. And then Athena is an exact dupe for Desert Dusk from Huda Beauty. They actually just came out with 4 more dupes too for the Huda Obsessions palettes, those little ones. I don't have them yet, but they are on the way. This is the Beauty Creations Boudoir Shadows, and this is just a really, really pretty palette. I love these colors, and the formula is really good as well. The Bad Habit Supernova and Solstice are Natasha Denona dupes, so that's this one. And then this one looks like that. I don't have the Natasha Denona palettes, but from what I've seen from other people swatching them, that those are exact dupes. The Milkshake palette from Face Candy is an almost exact dupe for the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes palette, and I actually swatched these side by side on my Instagram a while ago. The Beauty Creations Tease Me palette. A lot of people were saying this is a Huda Beauty dupe. It's not exact dupe for that, and It actually is pretty similar, some of the shades, to the NARS Wanted palette that I showed earlier. So this kind of is somewhat of a dupe for a few different palettes, but not a complete dupe overall. And the Beauty Creations Irresistible palette is another exact Modern Renaissance dupe. I swatched these side by side, I think on my blog a while ago, last year. This is one of the first palettes I actually got from Shop Hush, and I was very impressed with the quality. I thought it was really good, especially for the price. And then this one from Okalon is an exact dupe for the Lime Crime Venus palette. So I don't have that one either, but just from, again, looking at side-by-side dupes online, this is definitely the same. And then from Beauty Creations, I got their sweet palettes. This is the Sugar Sweets one, and these smell so good. This one smells like chocolate. And I guess they kind of remind me of Too Faced palettes, but they're not shade dupes. They're just sort of packaging dupes, and they kind of ripped off the idea a little bit, especially with the scented shadows, but they're not color dupes. So I actually really enjoyed these as well. I need to play with these more because I love the scent. This one smells like cotton candy. So, so good. All right, and moving right along, now we're going to get into some drugstore palettes. I have a lot of NYX palettes in here. I have the Love You So Mochi palettes, which are like sort of a creamy, bouncy texture. This is their Contour Intuitive palette, which is a face palette with shadows, blush, and bronzer and highlight. I have the NYX Ultimate palette, which is actually another dupe for Naked Heat. This is another NYX Ultimate palette in Sugar High. This is the little lid lingerie palette from them, which is so cute and really good quality. And then their Avant Pop palette. Both of these I actually talked about in my top palettes under 10 video. This is the other Love You So Mochi palette. This is the Go-To palette, which is another face palette from them. I got this one at Target. I think it's still available actually. Then I have a few of the In Your Element palettes. This is the Earth one, which is really pretty earthy tones. Here's the Metals palette, which is all metallics. And then the Fire palette with really warm tones. These were outstanding formula-wise. They were just a little on the pricey side, 30 bucks a piece, which is really high for drugstore, but I did think that the formula compared to high-end, so at least there was that. I also have their Perfect Filter palettes. This is the, let's see, this is the Golden Hour one, and this one was Rustic Antique. And then also this one was All of You, and this one kind of reminded me a lot of Subculture as well. I also have their Suede palette. I'm not sure that they make this anymore. This one's like really old. I'll probably get rid of this one at this point because I doubt I could wear this on my eyes anymore. From Model's Own, this is their Vintage Rose palette, and I got this back when they first came to Ulta. Not my favorite eyeshadow formula, but I liked the colors, so I was willing to give it a shot. Like I said, I think the formula is okay, but nothing to write home about. And then this is the Beachy Punk palette from Pacifica. Again, same thing with this formula. I do like that it's all natural mineral eyeshadows, but it wasn't the best formula-wise. It was kind of powdery. This is the Essence My Must-Haves palettes. I just made this palette recently on their website, and I think these are at Ulta now. You can buy the empty palette and then put your own single eyeshadows in it. I think they're pretty good quality. They're not the greatest, but they're super inexpensive, so if you want to choose your own shades, it's kind of a inexpensive way to do it. And I also have some of these little palettes from Essence, which I think are actually better than that one. These have a nice formula. I have the Bronze, Vintage, and Roses. This is from that new Ruby Kisses line at CVS. It's actually not new, but it's new to CVS. And this is the Sunset Kiss palette. It was very inexpensive, and I thought the quality was pretty good, but again, like not the greatest. I think there are definitely drugstore palettes that are a little bit better than this formula-wise. One of my favorite drugstore palettes of all time that's been discontinued now, but I'm hanging on to it. It's a Naked palette dupe, the Lovato by Demi Lovato from NYC. This palette was amazing. I hate that they discontinued it, and I don't even know if NYC is available in stores anymore. I think they kind of went out of business, but this was an awesome, awesome palette. I'm so sad that they don't make it anymore. And then I also have the Rimmel Magnifies Color Edition. This is new. It just came out. I got it at Walgreens a couple of weeks ago, and as far as drugstore palettes go, I think this is one of the better ones. The formula is really good, and I actually like the other palettes that Rimmel has too. They must be in a different drawer because I'm not sure where they are. They're not in this drawer, so I'm sure we'll come across them. And then in the next drawer is all of my Makeup Revolution palettes. So starting with the Chocolate Rose Gold. This one is brand new. I haven't even swatched it yet, but I think this is supposed to be a Huda Beauty dupe. And they also have the mint chocolate one. They really went crazy with the chocolate palettes. They have even more than Too Faced, I think. This is the water palette. I got this very recently, and I just love the colors in here. I think it's so pretty. This one's not at Ulta yet, but I ordered it from the Tam Beauty website. And then these are the 4 Reloaded palettes. This one is a Modern Renaissance dupe. They have a Subculture dupe. They have this really pretty rosy toned one. And then this one is a Naked Heat dupe. These are $7 at Ulta, and I just did a video on these. So if you want to go check that out. And then the I Heart Chocolate palette. This is a Too Faced dupe of their chocolate bar palette. This one's several years old now. This one is Chocolate and Peaches. Whoops. This one I actually haven't swatched yet either. Their Iconic Pro 2 is an exact dupe for the LORAC Pro 2 palette. And this one is their Naked Chocolate. This one has more rosy tones in here. The Ultra Eye Contour Light and Shade. This is just supposed to be a Kat Von D Shade and Light dupe. I think it's an exact dupe. I don't have her palette, but from what I've seen, it looks like an exact dupe. And then their Iconic palettes are dupes for the Naked 3, Naked 2, and Original Naked palette. So these are really exact shade for shade dupes, which I have compared in the past. This is another, oh, this is Death by Chocolate. So this is supposed to be, I think, a dupe for the Semi-Sweet chocolate bar from Too Faced. Either that or the other one was, and this is supposed to be a chocolate bar. I'm not sure which one is which now. And then this is the Golden Chocolate Bar. Just has a lot more shimmery shades in here. Actually, I think it's all shimmer. And then this one is Neutrals versus Neutrals. This was a really popular one at Ulta. I think it's still available. Just more warm tone shades. And then more drugstore down here. Oh, here's the other Rimmel palette that I have. This is the other Magnifies. This one is London Nudes Calling. So I think these are really good for the price, definitely. I have the CoverGirl True Naked palettes. These are also amazing for drugstore. They have a really nice formula. These are the little LA Girl Eye Lux quads, and I really enjoy the formula of these as well. I have a whole bunch of different ones. I swatched them on my Instagram a while ago. These are nicely pigmented and really inexpensive. And I have the new Physicians Formula quads. These ones, I think, were limited edition. I'm not sure if they're still available, but the formula on these was so incredibly creamy. They almost felt like creams. They were just really gorgeous. I hope that they start coming out with other palettes in this formula because I think it's really, really nice. Then next I have the Essence Eye and Face palette. This was actually pretty disappointing. It hardly had any pigment at all. The Catrice Precious Copper palette. Again, this one was all right, but there are definitely some better drugstore options out there. I have the L'Oreal La Palette Nude 1 and 2. Not my favorite palettes either. I'm really hoping that they can come out with something a little bit better. They're not the worst eyeshadows by far, but they're not great. Speaking of the worst eyeshadows, Maybelline Rock Nudes, Blush Nudes. I just am not a fan of these palettes. I had the other ones too, but I actually got rid of them. These are still hanging around, but I never ever use them. I think they're just dry and dusty and not a great formula at all. This is one of the new Almay palettes. I actually like this one. This reminds me a lot of the CoverGirl True Naked formula. I just am not a huge fan of the colors in here. I think it's just kind of more of a boring palette, but I think the formula is pretty good. Then I have some Wet n Wild palettes. Their Au Naturel palette and a whole bunch of their trios that they used to have. These are the older ones. Sorry about the glare. And these down here. I really like their trios overall. Some of these were more limited edition, like the white ones. I think they were from a summer collection. And then these are, let's see, this is the Studio Eyeshadow Palette in Quartz Center. And this one is Coming in Latte. I also have the original Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette, as well as the new Wet n Wild Color Icon palettes. I've talked about these before in my top 10 palettes under 10 video, and I've also swatched them on Instagram if you want to check that out. I think those are pretty good palettes as well. I kind of like the older formula a little bit better. I think these have more staying power and they're not as powdery. Okay, and then in this drawer I have one of the little Koki eyeshadow palettes from Walmart. Formula on this is okay. Again, it's not the greatest, so I don't really use it all that often. Pigmentation is just okay. I have the City Mini palette from the Shayla collab, and I really like this one actually from Maybelline. And I have the City Color Barely Exposed palette. This was sort of a naked dupe. This palette is pretty old, so I probably wouldn't use this one anymore. I've had it for years and years. This was the City Color Poolside palette. It was just a bunch of really bright colors. I used to really love the City Color palettes, but I'm sort of not really into them anymore because I feel like affordable palettes have gotten so much better now that these aren't wowing me like they used to. Some of the shades, especially the shimmers, I feel like they did an amazing job on all of their shimmer shades. I think they're super buttery and creamy, but the mattes were just very dusty and powdery and a little harder to work with. This is the After Hours palette. This is their Hypnotic palette. And this was the Figtastic palette. This one I actually liked quite a bit. I think it was a nice formula. I haven't used it in years though, so again, I'm kind of thinking that some of the newer palettes, especially like from Bad Habit and things that are a very similar price point, are so good that this is probably going to seem not so good anymore. But back when I got all these City Color palettes, the best at the drugstore was like, you know, Maybelline, and those really aren't good. So, you know, I think I have a higher standard when it comes to affordable palettes now. And these are the hard candy palettes that I have. This one is an all matte palette, and then this one is brand new, the Rose Gold palette that just came out. While I don't think the formula is outstanding, it's definitely not bad, especially over primer. I think you can really make these work well. And this is another brand new palette from Hard Candy, their Galactic Eyes palette. These are actually cream shadows that are glittery, and they're meant to be sort of pressed on top of your eye with the finger, either alone or on top of other shadows. I think they're really pretty. I haven't gotten a chance to play with it too much yet, but I'm definitely testing it now. J-Cat Sunset Boulevard. This is actually a really good palette that I got from Ulta. I think if you love warm tones, this is definitely worth picking up. The quality is amazing. The mattes are super pigmented. The shimmers are very buttery. So because I liked this one so much, I got 2 more from their website. I don't know if these are at Ulta, but if they are, I can link them below. This is the Melrose one. And then this one is Downtown LA. So these are just really nice palettes. They're huge though, so if you like big palettes with a lot of color selection, definitely give these a try. And then these are the collab eyeshadow palettes from Sally Beauty, and these are just like Bad Habit, some drugstore palettes that really raise the bar for all the other brands. They are absolutely incredible. They are almost high-end quality. The packaging is also really nice as well. It's soft touch, kind of like NARS. I really enjoy these and definitely want to pick up a few more. This one is called Best of the Day, and it sort of has modern Renaissance vibes. And then this one is Get Ready With Me, and it's just more neutral browns. The Profusion Mixed Metals palettes are also very, very nice palettes. I featured this one, the nude one, in my top 10 palettes under 10 video. I love this palette. And this is another one that they have. I wasn't as crazy about the shades in this one, but it's also very good quality. Speaking of Profusion, I also featured this one in my top 10 palettes under 10. This is the Sultry palette. Again, really, really good quality. Definitely raising the bar as far as drugstore goes. And it has a ton of shades for 10 bucks. From Coastal Scents, I have 2 palettes that I made with their Hot Pots Shadow Singles. This one. And then this one. And I think the quality on these is good as well. I also have their Revealed palettes, or at least a couple of them. The Revealed Smoky, which has a lot of smokier shades in there. And then this is the Revealed 2, which is a little bit more rosy toned. I have a Nuance palette from CVS. This was Salma Hayek's line. I believe it's been discontinued now, so I'm not going to really talk about that one. I also have some palettes from Jordana Cosmetics. These aren't available in stores. I got these on their website, and I was hoping, since they are the same company as Milani, that they would be like the Milani Everyday Eyes, and I think the quality is pretty good on these, but they're not as good as the Milani ones, sadly. They were just okay for me. And then this is the Flower Beauty eyeshadow palette in Golden Natural. This is another really, really good palette. Very similar to the Rimmel formula and the CoverGirl True Nakeds. I definitely recommend these for a drugstore option. Then this one I got at Ulta. This is the Lottie London Rusts palette. I wasn't too crazy about this one. It has some of those warmer shades, but I just thought the formula was mediocre. This is a little quad from Fiona Styles, which I think is no longer at Ulta anymore. And speaking of discontinued, also Circa Beauty. This was one of their eyeshadow palettes that I got at Walgreens, and that line has been discontinued as well. Okay, and then in the last drawer, I have some more Flower Beauty. This one is called Warm Natural. That's a really pretty one as well. And I also have some Flower Beauty quads that I really like. This one is Foxy Browns. This one is Secret Garden, which is a really pretty one. And this one is in the shade Smoke and Mirrors. The formula isn't the same as these. I think these are a little bit more buttery and soft. These are a little bit denser, but they're still nicely pigmented and easy to work with. I have the Milani Everyday Eyes palettes, which in my top 10 palettes under 10 video, I said these are like basically my favorite drugstore palettes. I think they're incredible. I have almost all of them. And also I have the new Milani palettes that I've also featured in a couple videos now. The Most Loved Mattes and Bold Obsessions. That's Most Loved Mattes. And this one is Bold Obsessions. Another really great formula as well at the drugstore. And these are the LA Colors Sweet 16 palettes. These are really cheap. I want to say they're like $5 or $7 a piece, something like that. Not the best formula, but you can certainly make it work over primer. So this one actually was sort of similar to Modern Renaissance as well. This one's called Brave. This is an LA Colors palette I got at the dollar store. This one's called Traditional. For a dollar store eyeshadow, it's pretty good, but not the best that I've tried for sure. Then now we're kind of getting into older palettes, so I don't know if these are still around anymore, but these are the LA Color 16 color palettes. This one is called Smokin' and this one is called Sweet. And these were actually pretty good, again, for the price. So not the greatest palettes in the world, but they were really cheap, so I can't complain. This was the e.l.f. Snow and Ice palette from their Frozen collection, and this was a Walgreens exclusive and is no longer available. Then I have the Pixi It's Judy Time palette, which I think has also just been discontinued because they're coming out with some new collabs with different people. This was a nice palette. Not my favorite, but it was pretty good. This is an e.l.f. beauty book. Oh my gosh, this is so old. I have to toss this one. It's probably like 6 or 7 years old, but I think I got it at Target back around the holidays at some point. I also have some more e.l.f. palettes in here. This is Mad for Matte. This is the Mad for Matte 2. This is the original Mad for Matte. This is their Nude Rose Gold palette. And then this is their Prism palette. So this one is actually really good, and I think the Mad for Matte 2 is good. The other two are okay, but I think this one and Mad for Matte 2 are definitely the standouts. This is one of the Hard Candy Top 10 palettes. This one wasn't my favorite. I think they definitely improved the formula with the larger ones that I showed earlier. This one was just okay, nothing special. And then this is a Hard Candy Natural Eyes palette that came with a little primer. Again, nothing too special with this one. I thought it was just okay. Whew, all right guys, so for anybody who is still with me and still hanging in there, thank you so much for watching. This video is definitely going to be over an hour long. That is my eyeshadow palette collection as it stands right now, but I'm getting more every day, so I'm definitely going to have to figure out some more storage for all of them. Please let me know in the comments below, like I said earlier, in the middle of the video, if there's something that I showed that you want to see, or if you want to see me maybe shop my stash and talk about some older palettes, definitely let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon.